What's up everybody, this is Scott. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, it is another comparison between the Pixel 6 Pro from Google, brand new right from Google, versus last year's, what I think should have been Samsung's best device, which was the Note 20 Ultra. And RIP to the Note line because it's no longer in existence. So I have the very last one, I guess you could say, from its line. Before we get started in all of this, I am filming these on the 4K 30 frames per second, whereas the Samsung actually has the ability to do 4K 60 frames per second on the selfie camera and 8K on the back. And the Pixel can actually do 4K 30 for the very first time in a Pixel on the selfie shooter right now, but does 4K 60 on the back. But we're going to dive into all of that. Everything that you see and hear are shot directly from both of these phones. I am recording with the microphones directly out of the phone, no external mic or anything like that. But one thing I want to notice right off the top is take a look at the sky behind me on both of these. As the white balance starts to get a little bit off and I shift around a little bit, both of them seem to struggle. The sky is a little bit more blue than that, and it is because of the white balance. So as you get up closer up here, you can see that it's a little bit more blue. I think both of them right now, I am like in the harshest of light. I'm in shadows right now, so you can kind of see exactly where it is. The wind is howling around pretty well. So I want to do a true up comparison between, this is exactly what you could expect. I do have the speech enhancement turned on, which is a new thing from Google that talks about specifically on a windy or noisy day, keying in on your voice. So I do have that on so you can hear exactly what that sounds like. I could turn it off and probably will turn it off as I start to talk about some of the other parts of the video. And on the Samsung side, I don't have anything like speech enhancement, so the audio is what it is. Now before I get into walking around, let's talk a little bit about tech specs, and I do have my handy cheat sheet right here for both of these. The Pixel 6 is a 6.7 inch quad HD display, 1440p by 3120. Comes with Gorilla Glass Victus. Actually, both of these phones come with Gorilla Glass Victus. The Pixel 6 Pro comes with 12 gigabytes of RAM and the all-new Tensor chip, which is the first of its kind, wireless charging up to 23 watts. The Samsung Note 20 Ultra comes in at 6.9 inches AMOLED 3200 by 1440 display that has, again, Gorilla Glass Victus as well. And the Snapdragon 865 with 12 gigabytes of RAM is the top of the line model, which is actually the model that we have right here. And it's still arguably one of the best devices that you can buy right now from Samsung. From a price point perspective, the Pixel 6 Pro comes in at a whopping $899, and by whopping, I mean not whopping at all. Whereas the Note 20 Ultra comes in currently still to this very day at $1,199. So the Pixel 6 Pro comes in at a solid $300 less than the Note 20 Ultra still to this day at the time of this recording. Now granted, you could trade some things in on Samsung's website and get that price down, but you could do the exact same thing as it relates to Google. So yeah, the Note 20 Ultra is still $300 more than the brand new Pixel 6 Pro. Well, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and take some shots, take some photos, take some videos, and do a side-by-side comparison of the stabilization modes and the different modes that you could expect out there. Now, this is the 4K 30 frames per second stabilization that you could expect out of both of these phones right now. I'm just walking on a path. Take a look at what the sun and the shadows look like. The grass is not this green. This is Ohio after all, so the grass is not nearly this green. In the Samsung that you can see right here, this is almost comically green, but actually on the Pixel side, this is way more true to life. I look a little bit more yellow on the Note 20 Ultra. This is actually more closer to my skin tone. But needless to say, the trees are not quite this green. It is fall after all, so the leaves are starting to fall down. But needless to say, this is almost comically green from the Samsung, as the Pixel is much more true to life. But take a look at the stabilization. Let's actually walk in the grass a little bit. How's the stabilization on both? I am holding these on a switch pod. Stabilization seems to be pretty darn good. Doesn't seem to have a lot of jelly effect or anything like that. So let's switch to the rear-facing camera and see what those look like. The first things first, this is 4K 30 frames per second on both of these devices. This is what the stabilization looks like. Both of them are pretty darn good from a stabilization perspective. Let's take a look here. Let's walk towards this goal right here. See what the stabilization looks like. Again, I gotta go with the colors seem much more true to life in the Pixel versus the Note 20 Ultra. Stabilization's pretty darn good on both, so I gotta give them a lot of credit for that on both of those things. But what do you guys think from a colors perspective? Take a look at the shadows and things like there. Is there any shadows being crushed from a black perspective, or there's just completely empty nothingness that you could see in the darkness of their souls? I'm not entirely sure what that was, but how do the shadows and the things like that look as I walk into it from a stabilization perspective? Now, one thing I'm going to do right here is flip this around. This is the standard wide lens on both of these. Let's go to the ultra wide 0.7 and 0.5. This is the ultra wide 0.5 versus 0.7. The 0.5 is obviously the Note 20 Ultra, and the 0.7 is obviously the Pixel. That is a huge wide shot. Take a look at that. From a wide angle perspective, it definitely looks like the Samsung is the one that has the 0.5, just a huge wide angle lens. So let's switch back to the wide. Switch back to wide. Now we're going to go 2x on that. Now we're going to go 5x on, I just happened to hit the button and go straight 5x, so I'm going to go 4x on the Pixel to try to show you what this looks like. From a stabilization perspective, it looks as though the Pixel's best. Now let's just, for grins and giggles, let's actually walk and see which one looks better from a 5x and a 4x respectively. Neither one of them looked fantastic. I would much rather jump back to the wide. There we go. Jumping back to the wide from that perspective, this looks a whole lot better. Now let's switch to 4K 60 frames per second and check that out. Now, this is 4K 60 frames per second that you can see right now from a stabilization perspective. Again, everything, I shall remind you, everything that you see in here is shot completely on mobile. No post-production was done at all from either a videography perspective or an audio perspective. So again, 4K 60, let's take a look at this stabilization. How does it look? Now let's walk back towards the shadows. How does the stabilization look walking back towards the shadows versus how do the colors look? Leave a comment below on which one you feel as though has the more accurate color representation. From my perspective, it looks as though the Pixel 6 is much more true to life as it relates to the color perspective. You can see from a fall time perspective in the Pixel right now, the leaves are a little bit more yellowish, whereas on the Samsung Note 20 Ultra, they're still green like vibrant summertime. They are falling here in Ohio, as you can see some of the leaves right now, and they were actually just picking up a whole bunch of leaves right over there earlier. So they are definitely falling. You can see the yellow tree right there in front of me. So needless to say, I think from a true to life perspective, the Pixel 6 Pro is the one that gets it right more often. So now that we've captured some of these different videos, let's go into photo mode and see which one actually takes a better photo. Now, one thing I'm going to note on the Note 20 Ultra, it still to this very day suffers from the stutter or the lag as it relates to the shutter button. So when you take a photo, it like for a second from the Samsung perspective, and they've yet to ever fix that. So I don't exactly know what's going on. Whereas on the Pixel 6 Pro, it's like snap, instantly done. So that is definitely one thing I'm going to tell you, that I took a couple practice photos over here just to say that I did. And yeah, the Note 20 Ultra still suffers from that shutter that is just overwhelmingly poor in my opinion. But with that said, let's just go ahead and take a bunch of pictures. So there you have some of the different photos and shots. I will tell you, when I was taking those shots, I was getting pretty frustrated with the Note 20 Ultra because of that shutter lag that it has. I know that it's a known thing, but it is just driving me insane I just wish that they could fix it, because it does take some super exquisite shots. But still, in my personal opinion, it is still second fiddle to the now new, brand new Pixel 6 Pro, especially when we start to talk about those portrait modes. If you take a look at some of those portrait mode shots, especially around the leaves and the different things like that, it is such a huge difference, in my personal opinion, between being able to pull out and give the depth of the field that I really, really want behind those leaves, especially. Not to say that it's anything bad or anything like that from the Note 20, although the shutter lag is really terrible. They really should fix that at this particular point. The idea is I can get the Pixel 6 Pro, 5 years of updates, 3 OSs, 4 years of updates on the Note 20 Ultra, because Samsung said 4 years of updates. I can get the Pixel 6 Pro for $899, whereas right now I can still only buy the Samsung Note 20 Ultra for $1,199 right now on their site at the time of recording this video. I can already see Samsung Knights in the comments coming and saying like, yeah, but it's all the trade-ins and things. I don't have to worry about all that. If I wanted to pay cash for a phone right now, I'm gonna pay $300 less by getting the brand new Pixel 6 Pro with the Tensor chip and all of the updates and all of the good pixely goodness, and I don't have to worry about the way that Samsung's got it skinned or the way that the colors look right now. Because as I'm sitting here talking, the colors right here over this right shoulder are green, and they're just not that green. I look much more true to life in the Pixel than I do on the Note 20 Ultra. Now I look more tan, so from a skin tone perspective, I look tanner here, but I'm actually this white. I don't know how else to say it. So let me know in the comments if you really do like these comparison side-by-side shots. Do hashtag team comparison, because I definitely want to see who's out there that enjoys these types of videos, because I have a ton of fun shooting them, that is for sure. So that's it, that's all I have. As always, like, share, subscribe, thumbs up, leave a comment below, and we will see you next time.